Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode. Is it a show, Kieran? Show of Sports Unplugged. And yeah, today I am delighted to have Kieran with me. He's a Liverpool fan. He's a fan of many things in terms of Liverpool Football Club. He's a fan of the board, the chairman, Linda, John, Tom, every Tom, Dick, and Harry of FSG. But I'm delighted to have him today because he's an avid boxing fan as well. So we'll go over the boxing, what next for Joshua. We'll go over the Saudi takeover at Newcastle. And we'll just do a little touch upon the international week as well, weekend. And I'm delighted to have Kev joined with us. Kev's had a bit of a trim. Kev, how are we?
I'm good, mate. Not too bad at all.
Brilliant, brilliant. And Kieran, how are we?
Yeah, good, mate. Good.
Brilliant, brilliant. So we'll get onto it, guys. It's been an eventful week. Usually international week, we're all sort of worried about injuries and players coming back, but there has been obviously big news that we covered yesterday on Carnage as well. But look, it's going to be a hot topic for the next few months, years, maybe even, depending on how much the Saudi group, the Reuben brothers, and Amanda Stavely spend. But I want to come to you, Kev. What have you made of the takeover for Newcastle United? Let's talk about Newcastle United because they've had a few ownerships pre-hand that have never worked out. I mean, they had going back to our time, Freddie Shepherd is the one that comes to
and
mind.
John Hall.
And they spent a lot. They spent a lot of money back in the day. They did, and it just didn't work out. Wrong appointments in terms of managerial. But I want to get your thoughts on the takeover right now and previously as well, and the Newcastle that you want sort of coming to the top of the sort of tree.
Newcastle with Hall and Shepherd were the entertainers. You know, they had Keegan. You had exciting football. They were the one. You know, everyone's second team. They were a fantastic sight to watch. Loved watching them. Everyone was delighted for them. Wished they could just get it over the line, and unfortunately, they were one rant away from getting there, from winning a title. Mike Ashley, being what Mike Ashley is a businessman first and foremost, and he ran it to make a profit, to sell his brand. And 14 years, the fans have had to put up with mediocrity, managers coming and going, a merry-go-round of who's next. And with Rafa, you thought, finally, they've got a manager who's got a clue. Invest. And no, it didn't happen. And Rafa did what he could with what he had, and the deal didn't go through.
Kev, was it a surprise that Rafa worked for so long with Mike Ashley? I think he did 3 years or 4 years with an owner like Mike Ashley, and we know that Rafa, loves his tiffs with ownerships, even at Valencia, then Liverpool, even at Inter.
Yeah.
Was it a surprise to you that he stuck it out for so long?
I think with Rafa, he was waiting for the buyout to go through. Yeah. This deal was held up for a long time due to several reasons. There's many people, lots smarter than me, will go delve into those reasons in the next weeks and months to come, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of shows to talk about those reasons. But I think Rafa waited as long as he could, and he just physically couldn't take it anymore. It was it must have been a massive drain on him when the classic for me is you look at Joe Linton. Rafa was offered Joe Linton. He said no. He didn't want him. Rafa left and they signed Joe Linton for crazy money.
From Hoffenheim, wasn't it? Was it?
You know what I mean? Yeah, on the strength of 6 months of a good season in Germany. And I think Rafa got out when he knew that the deal was just going to be held up for too much longer. And you look at now, it's they're the cat that got the cream. They're going to be the next PSG, the next City, the next Chelsea, whatever, new money, blah, 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 who cares? I mean, at the end of the day, they're going to come in, they're going to try and invest. I think for Newcastle fans' sake, I hope they've learned the lessons and the failures of Man City at the start. I hope they, having had so long to come through this process, that they have a director of football lined up, ready to start on Monday, with a clear plan of how to get to where they're going, and a manager with a managerial coaching staff in tow, ready to start. It would be negligence of the highest order to let Steve Bruce manage that club into the next group of 7 games. They're sat on after 7 games with 3 points. There's 14 games between now and the January window opening. They look like relegation fodder because the team that they're putting out under Steve Bruce is relegation fodder. I was on a show Wednesday night and I had them down as my losers of the week, knowing that the deal had gone through, and I stuck with it because if they don't replace Steve Bruce, if they stick with Steve Bruce and go the sentimental route and think, yeah, this is the guy, we're going to stick with him, there's a real chance that they could get relegated, irrespective of who they think they can go and buy in January.
Kieran, I wanted to come to you, and it's a good segue into Steve Bruce's tenure at Newcastle. I mean, a lot of fans didn't want him, but he sort of, stabilized them, just similar to what Rafa did, maybe, in terms of just keeping him afloat. But they surely need to replace him, isn't it? And you'd imagine that now is the sort of perfect time to replace him. But maybe they might just see it through till maybe November, December, before they pull the trigger. Hopefully, they might be expecting results may change. Fans will now be on the up. But do you feel they might stick with Steve Bruce for a little longer, or do you feel that his time's up?
His time should be up. Whether it is up or not, I'm not 100% sure of, because I mean we've had discussions. We've got 14 games between now and January, and is it a case of you bring a new manager in? I mean, I think it's all set out for Conte. And what's interesting to hear today is there's small murmurs this Saudi group that have purchased Newcastle, looking at Inter Milan next. Yeah. Now, if something as big as that happens, it is slightly different to the Red Bull perspective and the murmurs of them purchasing Toulouse. They've obviously got a stakeholding in there through Cardinal. And yeah, it's going to be interesting whether they allow Newcastle and another to compete, if that's what they want to do. I won't go into too much detail on what I think of the ethical side, because I'm very contradictory. I'm happy for Newcastle fans. I was born 89. First rivalry I remember is Fergie and Keegan. Yeah. And the likes of Philip Albert lobbing Schmeichel from 25 yards, something that sticks with me. So I've always had a bit of a soft spot. And they were the original 13-14 Liverpool team.
Yeah.
That's what they did. Now, what they need to do and what they will do are potentially two very different things. Now, I think they'll stick with Bruce until probably mid-December. Second, that sort of transfer window's coming up. There have players earmarked. They've spoken to Conte. No doubt about that. So that'll be the next manager. Forget Gerrard. I don't see.
I wanted to come to this free world. So he said, isn't Steven Gerrard the favourite for the Newcastle? He may be favourite in terms of the bookies, but it's a question I'll come back to you, Kieran, with this. Is it a job that you could see him maybe leaving Rangers mid-season? I don't think Gerrard's the kind of type to leave the fan base like that, in the middle of the season. I think he will maybe stick till the end of the season. But is it a job that they might just come out and say, and Amanda Staveley, a shrewd, smart businesswoman, will just come to the table and say, Stephen, look, we'll give you this much money next summer. We'll give you 2 years, get us into the top 4, and then we'll make a fist of it with the league, and we'll give you 200-300 million. And I say 200-300 million because literally I can see them spending 200 million, minimum next summer. You still don't think Steven Gerrard might not take it?
It's a difficult one from a Gerrard perspective because he didn't jump straight into management pro level. He obviously went through the under-18s, and then he had a bit to do with the reserves for us before taking that job at Rangers. Now, the expectation on Newcastle is going to go through the roof, and that's what I mean by them getting it right. Are they going to chuck money at it to try and fix the problem, paper over the cracks effectively, or are they gonna do a Man City and revolutionise the club from top to bottom? Because this is what's enabled us to compete for years. We worked on our foundation, and then we got the cherries by getting your Jurgen Klopps, putting your Michael Edwards in the right position, so on. And that's what Newcastle will do, going out buying £380 million players. It's going to be so unbalanced. And yeah, I don't see it working.
And they'll need to get
definitely not.
they'll need to get rid of a few Kev, won't they? They'll need to get rid of a few players as well, then, because you can't just have a combusting squad, full, and then you've got to get rid of the players as well. And they've brought sort of the Joe Willox, and you think about players like Joe Willox, a young British talent who's coming to Newcastle, who had a great loan last season. The back end of the last 3-4 months was scoring goals galore from midfield. What happens to him now? Is he going to be a mainstay or just a squad player at Newcastle? I want to come to this question because yesterday we all agreed sort of on the show. We had Kendall on, who's an avid Newcastle fan. Then we had me, Grizz, and Tobin. We said that, look, we're not happy for this. It's a weird one. We're not happy for the club because they're gonna have this endless amount of money, and yeah, they're gonna compete with us. But we're happy for the fans, if that makes sense. Newcastle fans, I think we can all agree, have suffered. Have suffered for years on end, with the Ashleys, with the manager appointments. They've had some real duds come in to the club and manage them. I think we're all happy that, they've finally got owners who will sort of spend lavishly. I want to come back to you, Kev, with this question. Does this make the league now, it will make it a better proposition for outside medias, TV broadcasters all over the world? What does it mean for Liverpool Football Club now? Is it now that we've got, or maybe, and I want to come on to the FSG thing now. Do we now need to change strategy? Do they need to maybe look at taking out substantial loans now? No. Does it get back into that sort of Hicks Gillette? Not as bad as that territory, but going and taking loans against the club's name. What next for FSG, and just on this Newcastle topic as well?
It's a scary prospect that it is now state-sponsored football. Effectively, City did a good job in hiding it and deflecting it away from directly away from the state. But this PIF group is an arm of the Saudi state. So how this got through the fit and proper persons test and how it got through that side of how the Premier League allowed this to happen in the first place is mind-boggling. Saying that, will FSG change? I think FSG might look to sell because there's catch-22 here. I don't think there's room to grow Liverpool's value more than what it is today. I think at the price they bought it to what the club is worth now, I don't think there's much more ceiling left for them to push it too much higher. Newcastle was bought for 300 million. Their ambition is going to be to turn Newcastle into the next £3 billion football club in wealth, in value over the next 10, 20 years. And it'll take that long. Don't be under any illusion that they're 3 windows away from competing for titles. They're not. They still have to buy within the same structure as everyone else. They still have to have the same quotas as everyone else. You still have to have a certain amount of homegrown players. Then you got FFP didn't go away. Ask Everton. All right. Now, when they have to live within the means of what the club revenue is, unless they go out and magically change the name of the stadium to something and the investment miraculously appears, then that's a bridge we'll have to cross down the road. I mean, at the moment, I think FSG have got a decision to make. Do they sell? Do they look for more investment and sell stake into their company, into Liverpool, while they retain a controlling interest? Someone at the very top comment at the very start of the show, how do we compete? We've been competing against state money and oil money for years. We've been winning
100.
We've been winning silverware. We've been competing, and we are competing against those odds now. Newcastle are just another obstacle. How do we compete? We buy well, we buy smart, we keep investing in the youth academy, and you produce gems. You know, long term, Liverpool is a global brand. Newcastle is a regional club. It's a one city club with a population of 300,000 people, and they're the one show in town. Yeah, they're big news now, and they've got big money now. Then you got to go and convince these world superstars come and live in Newcastle.
Great night out. Great night out.
Yeah, come and tell your wife and bring your kids to come and live in Newcastle.
Yeah.
You know, it's cold.
That's a great night out. I loved it.
But what I'm saying is, it's not as straightforward as people think. It's not Football Manager.
Of course
this isn't FIFA. This isn't like you go in and spam FIFA coins and you get your packs and you pack your Ronaldos and you send them out on the pitch and they just miraculously win. It doesn't work. Football isn't like that. Look at PSG. Watch them in the Champions League destroy Man City. They didn't destroy Man City, but they got a win against Man City. The following weekend, they turned up against Rennes and
lost 2.
They lost. It was 2-0, I think.
2-0. Sorry.
2-0, and it could have been 4 or 5. Rennes embarrassed them. They showed them up for what they are, which is a great group of individuals. They're not a team. And then I looked on LFC's Twitter accounts before we came on stream, and I watched the video of Klopp, the 6-minute video of Klopp after the Champions League final. And I no commentary, no influence, just watching Klopp and watching the reaction he has with the players and the interactions between the players themselves and him and the coaching staff. That takes years to build. You don't build that in 5 minutes. You don't build that in one transfer window. We're going to be fine. You know, Newcastle have got a lot of ground to make up. Will they be strong? Yeah. Will they be competition? Yeah. So what?
And I just want to read out Laura Duffy's comment on it. She reiterates what you said, Kev. We're already competing against state-owned clubs, so I don't see FSG just throwing money at the club. It might be an evolution of what we're doing. And I want to come on this word evolution, Kieran, to you. Evolution, and we're seeing it now a little bit. Liverpool are more and more now investing in youngsters like the likes of Bobby Clark, the James Balaguese who came from City, Cade Gordon, your man, and Musialowski. Is that what might be part of the plan now, to invest in the best youth around in Europe, in England, get them over, and hopefully like 3-4, by the time of 18, 19, 20, they make that grade?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was Shawnee a few months back brought up about your likes of Bellingham, etc., and we missed out on them. But we're doing that now with that structure. Takes a lot of time and patience, which where we're at the top of the game at the moment, we don't have, which is where our debate comes in on FSG, so on. We're one of the best free clubs in world football now. I truly believe that. And it's come up with the argument, well, we need bigger owners now who are going to plough more money in, and we're going to buy stars. So it's not that simple. I mean, everyone says, Newcastle being taken over now, Liverpool are going to drop out of the top 4, United are going to drop out of the top 4. It is so short-sighted. It takes years to get to consistency. Now everyone says sort of Man City won a title within 4 years of Abu Dhabi taking them over. Yeah, they didn't really go on until probably the 17-18 season when they've won it 3 out of the last 4 years. Before
they're still waiting for the elusive Champions League as well. So that's what 13, 14 years is it still?
Yeah, exactly that. It's 13 years. It's so narrow-minded that everyone thinks money equals success. Now we're at a stage in football where we've got states playing chess. You got Abu Dhabi, you got Qatar, you got Saudis. Won't be long till there's someone from Bahrain. Won't be long till you get someone proper from Malaysia, not the ex-Cardiff owner or Thailand. There's money literally everywhere, and these countries, they're just taking each other on now. And So there's so much narrow-mindedness that money's going to bring success, and it's not going to happen because, this gaffer that have bought Newcastle, 700 billion they're talking about now. They're not going to go out and spend 700 billion. They might spend $500 million, but that's still within the realms of a Man City, a PSG, and so on. Now, this is where I totally agree with what Laura says, because I've been saying it for pretty much the whole summer. I'm an FSG loyalist, but they needed to evolve their model this summer. Now, they didn't do that on the eye, but perhaps they did in going down this 16, 17, 18-year-old, getting the best youngsters in Europe. You notice they went beyond the UK just before Brexit, and now they're targeting the best players in the UK, your Bobby Clarks, your Cade Gordons. It's not your Peter Lugas anymore, or Misiolowskis. And then I'm having discussions with people like Man City are doing Kaki and players like that. I don't know fuck all about Kaki. I'm not going to pretend I do, and half of them don't. But because he's Brazilian, he's 19, he's the next Neymar, but he may be the next Cardon. So we don't know, do we?
Yeah. No, got it. And another question from KD. Yes, I think that's agreeing with what you're saying, Kieran and Kev. But long term, what do we do? Now we'll fast forward a little bit. Say Klopp does leave in 2024. Will FSG have to change the policy as well in terms of, maybe they'll just have to loosen those purse strings for the new manager? Because there was sort of it was widely expected that we were meant to sort of spend quite a substantial amount this season. We were too short. I think we all agree on that. We were too short. And maybe January we might, scout out what's there in Europe. But I'm talking about post Klopp now. What is the long-term vision now? It might just be that FSG decide to sell up maybe a year early, or maybe have investment come in, or maybe even say, you know what, Klopp's gone. We'll wait for a new manager to come in, but we'll make sure the next sort of custodians who take over the club are, as good in terms of success, or obviously better than how they've run it. Kev, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the way they're going to do it is along the lines of the next director of football that replaces Edwards that comes in. It's going to be his job to appoint the next manager.
So we know that's going to be Julian Ward, isn't it, Kieran?
Yeah, more than likely. Yeah. But he's going to decide the structure of the club for his tenure, which should be 10 years, effectively. Then he's going to appoint the coach to work within that structure. And his job is going to be to make us competitive. Now, if that means that we have to go out and spend money to make us competitive, fine. People think FSG are tight. The first thing that FSG did when they took over the Boston Red Sox, the very first thing they did is they went out and bought Roger Clemens. Roger Clemens at the time, and it was the biggest free agency in baseball ever when they went out and did it. They delivered success. Yes, it's going to be up and down. We don't have a divine right to win anything, but what we do expect is to be competitive. We expect to compete. Now, we didn't go out and spend huge money when we went out and bought Sadio Mane, Mo Salah, Bobby Firmino. We went and bought the right players to fit what the club needed and how the club wanted to play. That's the model that's going to continue. It's not a case of we're going to go out and buy the next £100 million player. We're going to go out and say, right, we need a central midfielder who in 2 years' time is going to replace Jordan Henderson. So we're going to go out and spend to replace that player and how that player is going to play. Same with the forward, same with the defender. It's the exception. Virgil van Dijk was the exception to the rule because we dithered with him. We ended up having to wait for him. But he was the exception to the rule. We had to address two positions urgently. Keeper, centre-back. They were vital. And FSG have been consistent in everything they've said all the way through. If something has to be done, they'll go and do it. And people will say, yes, the Coutinho money, this, that, and the other. But you know what? They maximised the finance they got in on a player who had a bad back and wanted to go. They got 140 odd million for that guy, and this is a guy who wanted to leave. Do you know what I mean? I can't remember too many times FSG forcing a player to leave, unless they asked to. You know,
FSG have never forced a player to leave. The four big sales are Torres, Suarez, Coutinho, and
Sterling.
Who? Sorry,
yes, Sterling.
Yeah. But what do they all have in common?
They all asked to leave.
Yeah, and they were all before the Klopp tenure, bar Philip Coutinho, who was disillusioned, and really, who could blame him? We had the 2013-14 season, you lose Suarez. 2014-15, awful. 2015-16, we end up finishing 8th with UEFA Cup final. And it was very easy to be disillusioned at different points in this tenure with FSG. And that was whether you allow the process to take place. Like Klopp said when Coutinho went, go to Barcelona and be somebody, or stay at Liverpool, be a legend. He took the easy way out. Now, the answer to everything isn't throw money at it all the time. Yeah, it does help. But the lights of City have been so astute, and so were Chelsea when they first came into money. You look at the signings they made. For every Hernan Crespo and Andrei Shevchenko, they had a Joe Cole and Damien Duff.
Yeah.
Very good players, but in terms of the world game, absolutely no chance. Buying superstars doesn't work all the time. Barcelona have proved that in going downhill. They followed the Galactico model, which failed for Real Madrid, which allowed Barcelona to take over in Spain.
And that was through the La Masia Academy as well. How many came through during that era? You know, Messi, the Xavis, Iniestas. I know Xavi's quite a few years back, then Iniestas, then the Pedri, Rodriguez. So, you know, that was majority of it was from the La Masia Academy.
And they've got a cracking set of youngsters from La Masia, and also Pedri they got from Las Palmas. But they out of contract in 2023, and at the moment they can't afford to give them new contracts. That's what happens when you're giving 17-year-old kids 74 grand a week. Is the answer to everything is not money. It certainly helps, but it's not the answer.
And I want to come to, there's a comment that Avo Third said, we've got history and a worldwide falling because of what Shanks created and how Bob had us play the game. That doesn't happen nowadays. The same goes for United. I want to come back to something that you just touched upon, Kieran, wages and youngsters. Kev, should there be a salary cap? Okay, it's hard to have a salary cap for all, but a salary cap for youngsters under the age of 21, because with Newcastle now, every youngster that they will try to poach and buy, they'll be offering them silly money, isn't it?
I think we have one.
No, as a ruling, no?
Yeah, I think we have an unofficial one where they pay youth academy players, or once they come on to their first contracts and their next contract up, there's a ceiling to what the club are willing to pay. But I think legally it's impossible, because to do it would have to be global, and it would have to be across continents and across jurisdictions. Do you know what? I don't like the idea of wage caps, because at the end of the day, if you go to see a Tom Hanks film, and Tom Hanks is the star of the film, Tom Hanks gets a percentage of the money, and there's no cap on what Tom Hanks earns. If you're going to see a Premier League club with a top Liverpool, Man City, whoever, you're going to see the stars play. You're not, the club is one thing, and you have loyalty and what have you, but the stars are the players, and they're the ones who create who generate the income. Now, I don't think that I would hate to see a situation where the players' wages were capped and the owners cream the money, because the one thing that's consistent is the ticket prices aren't going down. TV revenue, our Sky bill is not going to go down anytime soon.
It's going up.
So the money's going to go somewhere. And as much as it sickens me seeing people earning six figures a week. It's disgusting in this day and age when you see a country that has more food banks than McDonald's. And we're on here having a chat tonight about players earning 350 grand a week. And it's the people's game. It doesn't sit right with me. Should there be a cap? No. But look, everyone has to come across that bridge themselves, that morality question, because come the next kickoff, we're all going to be screaming and shouting for Mo Salah and Sadio Mane. We don't give a shit how much they earn. Truth be told, we don't care.
Kieran, a question from Adred. Thank you for the question. Question for the three of you. I'll let you answer it, Kieran. If you were a top player, non-Liverpool fan, would you play for Klopp for less money or any other manager? And that's a tough question because we know now players are very. No, I tell you why. I tell you why, Kieran. Players are very highly influenced by Raiola. Now, one of Raiola's tactics to get players on board to his agency is he will give them a framework of, say, look, the next 10 years, you can go and play for the club of your desire, but you'll only earn this much. Whereas if you have a 10-year span or a 15-year span in this game, if you follow my lead, I'll make you this much. That's why I think it's a great question. I know what my answer would be, but I'll go to you first, Kieran. What would you do? Would you play as a non-Liverpool fan as well? So you could probably support New York Giants, whoever you support in the MLS. But non-Liverpool fan, would you play for Klopp for less money or any other manager?
Me individually, Klopp for less money. So we live in a very greedy world now. It says a lot about you as a person. We're not talking about people scraping the barrels, as Kev said. So it's a very healthy lifestyle, playing for 100 grand a week, as well as it is playing for $500,000. Now, for my personality, that's what it all comes down to. I'd want to achieve my maximum potential and in turn potentially become a legend somewhere. But it is very easy to be influenced when numbers are put in front of you. But the numbers we're talking about now, we're not talking about the 90s when, at the time, I mean, Paul Merson come out of his gambling habit in the 90s, squandered 7 million. We're not talking about £7 million anymore. Yeah. We're talking about 100 million, 120, 130. The numbers are just astronomical. They've gone beyond inflation. I was intrigued to look at something. It actually came about as a debate. So about Liverpool's model with finance. I look back to when we signed Kenny Dalglish in 77.
Did he come from? Was it Scunthorpe, Kev?
Dalglish.
Keegan.
Celtic.
Dalglish was Celtic. 440 grand we signed Dalglish for after selling Keegan for 500,000. The next 2 years would go on to win the Ballon d'Or at Hamburg. £440,000 in 1977 is now worth 1.76 million. It's 4 times inflation. We're talking about individual players getting 20 times inflation over 20 years.
It's kind of the returns you get on crypto right now at the moment, Kieran. But yeah, go on.
But yeah, this is where agents. I have total respect for Kevin De Bruyne and the approach he took for his contract renewal. He's maximised what he's going to get, but he put the time in to get the right people to analyse his performance, tell Man City what he can bring to them. No agent involved, negotiated a new 450 grand a week contract. Someone like that I don't begrudge, because there's not an agent dictating to him what he is and isn't going to do. The problem is agents are coming into the game with players at 11, 12 years old. We're not on about getting established people where they've had a 3-4 year career. It's starting to sort of progress a bit. when we talk about owners and the ethical side of it, the ethics of football, away from our tribalism to whoever we support, is disgusting. It is nothing short of immoral at all levels. I mean, I put out a tweet. There's a lad at AC Milan.
13 years old. Yeah.
Scored 247 goals in 60 games. Why the hell is that getting out at 13 years old? That's the sort of figure a father should keep. But no, well, to be honest, it maybe is a father who's going to use an agent at that age to get him a Nike sponsorship deal.
That story you've just told me about that Milan kid, because I saw it on your timeline feed. That reminded me of Bojan Krkic. Scored like 547 or 50 goals in academy level, and everyone was saying the next Messi. And look how his career dwindled down. You know, you get into that hype, and the players, they get sort of brainwashed as well by that hype, and they don't develop as they should. But with this comes back to Van Dijk and the Blackpool Tower story. You know, he could have gone to play for Chelsea, had 200k off a week, or gone to City and had 250 a week off the bat back in 2017-18. But the player waited because Klopp had drummed it into him. Look, come to Liverpool. These are what I'm building. These are what I'm developing. And within 3 years, you'll be talked about as one of the best players. Forget about defenders, but one of the best players in the world. Kev, I think your answer is pretty straightforward, but do you want to give me your...
it wouldn't matter if it was Klopp.
Yeah.
If you're good enough to play for that caliber of manager, you're never going to put your hand in your pocket and feel your leg again. You know what I mean? It ain't about money. When it gets to that, when you're at that level, it ain't about money. It's silverware, medals, legacy. And at the end of the day, if someone is, let's be honest, if someone's greedy enough to move for money at that level, knowing what we know about the world and knowing what we know about the value of a pound or a dollar, I got no time for that. It's just not me. At the end of the day, if I was fortunate enough to be in that position to play for a Klopp, a Guardiola, you name it, then I'd be happy. I'd be a happy bunny.
And these questions to both of you: Are youngsters still the same compared to maybe United's kids under Fergie, where the Beckhams, the Nevilles, the Giggs, they came through, but they listened to Fergie and they said, you know what, this is the club for me to stay and develop and improve my game? Or are we living in a world where a youngster will see a bit of money and think, you know what, I'll jump ship. I'll jump to see. You see 17, 18-year-olds who are in an academy like a Sterling, but by the age of 17, I'm not saying Sterling, for example, Bobby Duncan comes to mind. Laura Duffy is a great. He thought he was ready for first team football or being in and around the first team squad. He gets sold a story by Saif Ruby. They put out a media story saying we've chained him to, the chambers or something. Klopp's chained him and he wants to release. Goes to Fiorentina. It's worked out horribly wrong for him. He sacked Saif Ruby in the process. Comes back to Derby. Can't get a look in their first team. A failed move to Denmark. It has changed a lot, hasn't it, Kev? In terms of the dynamics from the kids from the 90s.
Yeah, it has. But then I look at Marcus Rashford and the picture that he had today with the academy and the structure that United have. And if you've got a good academy with a good academy director, you can curb off a lot of this influence relatively early. But you have to have the backing of the club 100%. There can't be any dithering and there can't be any guesswork about it. It's the club have a structure and a plan in place for every player and a pathway. And as long as players see a pathway to the first team, if they're good enough, and a manager who's willing to pick them, then their heads won't get turned. And if they do get turned, then there's Bobby Duncan, there's Phil Coutinho, there's Gini Wijnaldum. How's the grass on their side of the fence today? Maybe Liverpool and the academy structure and the management of the club really do know what they're talking about. The proof is in the pudding when you look at the performances of players who've left. I can think of it on one hand, the players who have left Liverpool and their careers have kicked on. Luis Suarez is top of the list, but it's a very short list.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, when Klopp arrived 6 years ago, we were a skipping stone to a destination club. We are now a destination club. And players around the world, kids around the world, are influenced not by watching Match of the Day, not by reading the back of a newspaper. Kids around the world growing up are influenced by the superstars that are playing for their countries, and they're influenced by video game.
Yeah.
And they want to be that player on FIFA. They want to play in those stadiums that they see that they play on their video game. And that's their influence. And the future 20 years, you're going to have kids growing up following players in a large part over clubs. And you're seeing it with Kylian Mbappe, more so now than ever before, where fans will flock to a player, not the club. And you'll see it when he moves to Madrid.
It's like Kieran with Cade Gordon. He was a Derby fan, now he's a Liverpool fan, isn't he, Kieran? So no, I totally get what you mean. It's more of a player sort of fan. And we've seen it on Twitter, Kev, all summer.
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't we going in for Sancho? Why aren't we going for Mbappe? Loads of fans didn't you would think that Michael Edwards' job didn't exist at all with the way we recruit. They don't want to hear the Minaminas. They want star names. Kieran, back to you. Jerome Sinclair comes to mind as well. Another, was told that, look, stay, sign a new contract, but he goes off to Watford, and then now he's stuck in Venlo, Triple V, somewhere in the Eredivisie, Dutch League 2 or something like that. And it's a short career as well. You got to remember, it's a short career for players. And one bad move, you're always playing catch up. And we've seen it with Bobby Duncan, the Sinclairs, and other youngsters from other clubs. Josh McCracken, a Chelsea youngster, a class youngster who's on 50K a week as a 19-year-old. Just went out on loan, didn't get going, couldn't find a club. And I don't know where he is now. I think he's at Middlesbrough. But a quick final word on this, Kieran. Youngsters in Fergie didn't have agents like today. Back then, it was more the players' fathers who were looking after, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's famous story about Fergie going down to Leytonstone to meet is it Terry and Patricia Beckham, David Beckham's parents, and that was the furthest he ever brought someone in from. He heard about this kid who everyone at the time wanted. I think Beggs was on the books at Tottenham before United. But beyond that, sort of only other players I can think about was Keith Gillespie was another one that Fergie personally met, and even Robbie Savage. People forget Savage came through United's youth team, and then you look at beyond that, the class of '92. You got Phil and Gary Neville, Berry. You had Giggsy, North Wales. You had Nicky Butt. That they're all local, so it took a very special player in the young days to go to a United, go to a Liverpool. Jamie Redknapp signing for Liverpool from Bournemouth. It's all to do with parents and their holding within football or around football. And now you've got Mino Raiola, Buddy, whoever. To be honest, they were dictating what kids are doing. I wouldn't let them anywhere near my kids.
Yeah.
If they had any talent towards football, no chance.
Good point. It's been brilliant because we touched upon youngsters and it wasn't on our topic, but I do want to come to this next topic. So obviously with Newcastle now, City still sort of needing a 9. Chelsea may go dip in the market in January. Are we expecting a big January more than a usual one from previous winters in regards to clubs maybe wanting to spend that much more? And do you think, I know I've asked you, Kev, and we were on with Callum, so I'll ask Kieran, do you envision us doing any kind of business, Kieran?
There's murmurings of it in what Klopp said about it, AFCON, and we need to sort a solution. Whether we go for a certain player or we've got your Adeyemi's earmarked, or if you can entice them. Seems like he wants to go to Germany as a stepping stone again before that big move, in which case probably rules Liverpool out of his career. But I think there will be something. There won't be the masses that everyone's expecting. What will be interesting is what the average transfer fee is over the next 18 to 24 months. Because you've now got 4 proper worldwide sort of clubs that can offer serious amounts of money. I mean, PSG have done it this summer without buddy spending a penny. But
I think it was only Hakimi that was that they paid a transfer fee for, right?
Yeah, 72 million for Hakimi. But you got Donnarumma, Messi, Ramos, Wijnaldum. I mean, everyone forgets there's more to football than transfer fees, but if you sign someone for 30 million, you're a cheapskate. But when you're paying agents 30 million and paying 25 million pounds sign-on fees, the thing is, all we see is a big transfer number. That's all that's reported on. You're not reported on the build-up of the contracts. Such a fickle sport. We get told what they want us to know.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if they turned around and announced, right, the transfer fee or the package for XYZ players is, including transfer fee. This is what the combined wages is for 5 years plus agents' fees. There's your total package for how much a player is. I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo's 2 years at Old Trafford on 700 grand a week. That's a sizable chunk of change, every which way you look at it. You know, there's no such thing as a free transfer, because Pogba reportedly wants 20 million signing on fee. That's just to stay where he is.
Well, Chan's signing on fee to Juventus was 14 million. Okay.
Yeah,
that's Emre Can.
That's what I mean. But Can left for free. He didn't need rocks.
You look at Ramsey, 400 grand a week at Juve.
Yeah, I mean,
they want to get rid of him now.
Yeah. Are we going to be recruiting in January? No. And if we do, it's going to be because we've had a catastrophic injury somewhere. The reason being, you look at Konate. I think Konate is going to be a fantastic defender, but we're in October and Konate has kicked a ball once in anger. It takes time. Klopp won't sign a player in the 1st of January to play a game on the 8th. It's just not going
unless you're Virgil van Dijk, Kev.
Yeah, but I know. Look,
he was signed on 27th of December, Abby.
Yeah, so unless he's going out signing Robert Lewandowski in January, do you know what I mean? Unless you're signing the ready-made article, then you're not. It's not going to happen. The one player I find is going to be in high demand, and I think is going to be well worth a watch, is whether it's us or Newcastle or whoever, is Ivan Toney. I think Ivan Toney is going to go in January somewhere.
Former Newcastle player, Kev.
Yeah. Whether he wants to go back there or what, I don't know. But at the end of the day, if you're Newcastle United and you need someone to score you goals, you want a number 9 who knows where the back of the net is, and you've got, say, Maximin around him, he's ideal. I think he'd be ideal for us. I think he'd be an absolute rocket for us as an option. But would he be willing? Yeah, would he be willing to be an option for us, or would he want to go to Newcastle and start and be there at the start at the ground level coming in? But there are going to be players like that out there now at that level. Donny van de Beek is another one.
Yeah, he desperately needs a move away, doesn't he?
Yeah. There's going to be players around in January that are going to be getting onto their agents in October now. So look, if there's any slight possibility that I can get to Newcastle in January, start pushing it now. You know, and Newcastle, for all their celebrating yesterday, you watch what happens come January 1st. They're no different to Chelsea fans, and they're no different to Man City fans. When the push comes to shove, they're going to want instant success. And I don't care what their mantra is, whether they turn around and say, yeah, we're willing to wait. We believe in the project. Yeah, we believe in the project, but get us content. You know, that's the. If they believed in the project, they go and get Graham Potter, and they build. They don't want
Going
a
back
project.
to
They want Conte. They want Man City. They want a league in 4 years, and they're going to be screaming from the top of the Gallagher to get their moves, and the pressure will come, and
going
we'll
back
see how it goes.
going back to Avi's question anyway about Liverpool, the one I'm interested to see if it rears its head again is Chiesa. Because of the start Juve have had to the season. I know he's turned us down. I still think the negotiations are with Fiorentina rather than Juventus. But the way they've started the season, they don't seem to have that click. I don't see them as challenging.
When they got the manager back in as well. It surprised me that they're stuck in the mud as much as they are. They brought Allegri back.
They've won the last two, haven't they? They won the last two. They beat Chelsea, so I think they're on
they came from 1-0 down to beat Spezia 2-1.
Yeah, they're really struggling. They're really struggling.
I was going to mention Luis Diaz, but
he's got to be another one.
I think I should just keep my mouth shut because Kieran obviously doesn't rate him based on one game. But hey, that's fine.
I've only seen him play once.
Only joking. I think the one player that we said maybe, and he's an exciting youngster, is Karim Adeyemi. If Salzburg get out of the Champions League, it might be easier if we are interested. That is, but I would imagine that we would be getting him in for like maybe 30, 35 right now. I think Salzburg said something that he has got a price. I think they're looking for about 30 million. So let's see how it pans out. I think a lot of people are saying Germany back to Bayern. So maybe one of those ones. Guys, okay, the big one. Enough of footy. This is a all sort of sports show. And I've brought Kieran because we've gone back and forth on the Joshua Usyk rematch and why it should happen, why it shouldn't happen. Kieran he's got his opinions. I don't agree with them entirely, but that's nothing new because we don't usually agree on the same thing. But Kev, we'll come to you. First of all, I don't think we've caught up since the fight. I know we've exchanged messages.
We haven't had a proper chat about the fight.
Usyk was brilliant.
I think I said it on the pod. I think it'll be Joshua early or Usyk on points because Usyk he's just a classy boxer. Joshua tried. You can't box Usyk. He's too damn good. Do you know what I mean? He's mastery of distance is up there with anyone you care to mention. He's naturally evolved and developed his body organically to be a full-flown heavyweight at 6'3", and he's got enough power to demand his opponent respect.
Yeah,
he's got enough of it. He might not have the one punch knockout, but he's got the one punch that will get through often enough to deter you into maybe thinking twice or three times before you unload on him. I thought it was a masterful performance. Not surprised. Disappointed in myself that I didn't bet on it. But
I just want to come on to this. He looked comfortable at heavyweight, Kieran. Usyk. He didn't look sure, or he didn't look, there wasn't any worries. With Joshua, and we were getting little clips of, obviously, when he was going back to his stool at the end of the round. Was he getting the right information from McCracken in terms of round by round? Or because I just kept hearing, you're doing fine, you're doing well, just keep pushing a little bit, up the pace a little bit. But it wasn't like they weren't demanding anything from him. But I want to get your thoughts on the Joshua Usyk fight because I know you've got a few things to get off your chest. Yeah, great atmosphere as well. From the
cracking atmosphere, I'll give him that. I haven't seen sort of between the rounds. I've seen sort of Sky Sports playback round by round. My thoughts on the night seeing it is going into it. I was pretty much the same as Kev. It'll be Joshua mid-round stoppage or it'll be Usyk points. And the reason being, Usyk's two biggest strengths are AJ's two biggest weaknesses. And that's movement and coming on strong the second half of the fight. AJ absolutely hates that. Now, I didn't understand AJ's tactics. It didn't make sense. You watch the fight back and watch the first 3 rounds, Joshua got through with one jab in each round with right hand. You just watch how far sort of Usyk went back on his feet. But then from round 4 onwards, so it was like it was choreographed, and Usyk was countering with the left all the time. It was open. And you go into the last round, I mean, there's a lot of talk about the time in there and whether it lasted.
I still think it was off. I know we went over this on WhatsApp. I still think it was 5 seconds shorter.
Nah, you look at it, they had 6 seconds of hugging and kissing before sort of ref let them fight in the 12th round. But it was a left hand, it was getting through all night, and AJ's technique is very mechanical. Now, me and you have had quite a few chats on the way the scheduling should go. I think that's been thrown up in the air. I don't know what to think now by WBC ordering the winner of Wilder Fury to fight White, unless the Undisputed's announced. And for my immediate thoughts, where you take the rematch or...
Just a quick one, Kim, before you continue, and hold your thought just a second. Why does it always feel in boxing they're throwing up different scenarios? Like you mentioned, White wasn't in the picture 2 weeks ago. Now all of a sudden, the Fury Wilder winner now has the potential to meet White. Like, what is going on? Because I honestly don't know. I really
too many commissions,
sanctioning bodies.
Yeah, it's not like UFC where there's one overarching. You might get a franchise champion if a champion's in recess, but yeah, when you've got mandatories from IBF, WBO, WBC, WBA, is just mad. The first thing they should have been looking to do once we got into a top tier of heavyweight boxing, do what they did with the middleweights and bantamweights, but the super series.
Yeah. I like the was it the middleweight one, the Carl Frock, the Kessler one.
Super middleweight.
George Rose, Callum Smith was the super middleweight.
Yeah.
But even like Usyk and Gassiev, the best fought the best, and we're at a period where I think Fury's the best heavyweight out of all of them. I'm an AJ fan, but Fury is the best. I've got no qualms in saying that. But for me, get them all in and around, take the organisations out of it, get them in the World Boxing Super Series. They pick who they want to fight, the so-called easiest, and then best to outlast everyone else. And it's worked with everyone. It worked at super middleweight. It worked at the E6.
I think they did a welterweight.
It worked with YNWA and Donaire at bantamweight. That model is perfect for boxing as a whole. I think COVID may have put a spanner in the works for it happening. But this is where I've got a lot of respect for Eddie Hearn. He saved boxing in COVID times for me.
Another smart businessman, yeah.
He's got his critics, but he kept boxing worthwhile.
I don't know if you saw it, Kieran. So he gets called out. Someone calls him a word, and he's going back to the dressing room. And the fans, he's called him out, and he goes back to the fan. He goes, "What'd you say? What'd you say?" And the guy just didn't have anything. So he goes, "Yeah, I thought so. Kept your mouth shut now, haven't you?" I'll send you the clip on Twitter.
People forget Eddie Hearn's 6'5". Yeah. He's a big old lad.
Yeah, his dad's a well-known. He's a well-known man as well around London.
Oh yeah,
Lane Orient way. But okay, I'm gonna plan out a little scenario. Wilder Wilder beats Fury. Do we then have the potential? Does it make it easier to make a Fury Joshua fight then, or Joshua obviously has said that he wants a rematch? Regardless of what happens in the rematches against Usyk, would it be good for boxing? And it's not me saying that I want Fury to lose. Yeah. Would it be good for boxing that Wilder beats Fury on Saturday night? Or do we see Fury just activating another rematch and going with Fury Part 4?
I think the way it's structured at the minute, this is the end for this trilogy. There isn't anything in the contracts for another fight. Win, lose, or draw. It doesn't matter which way it goes. The other side of this is Wilder's 37. So if he does win, he might have one more fight in him, and before he starts to think about calling it a day. So if he turns around, say he does win, then he's forced to fight a mandatory.
Okay.
Or he negotiates to fight Usyk and maybe retire as undisputed champion. The other scenario, that would leave Fury with only one option with AJ, but there's nothing on that. There's no belts on it. It's just bragging rights. So
Battle of Britain, basically.
So what? Who cares? I mean,
at the end of the day, it's 10 times over.
Yeah, but it's a money fight. At the end of the day, that's all it is. You're only fighting for the money. There's no belt, and at the end of it, they could have a round robin between the two of them, fight 3 times, and it would sell out Wembley 10 times over, and the TV companies would bid up to the high heavens for it.
I could see it being held in Saudi, Kev.
Yeah, that's the scary thing.
There would be one.
And
I could see it.
For your scenario, Kieran, about a Super Series, it would need that level of money because you're dealing with heavyweights. It's not the same as dealing with bantamweights and the welterweights and the super middleweights, because the money isn't in those divisions. The heavyweight division is the money division. It always has been, always will be, for as long as I've got a hole in my backside. So you have to look at the division as a whole. Is there 8 fighters in that division right now over the next 3 to 5 years to justify a knockout competition between 8 fighters? And I think there is. I think the heavyweight division is so strong at the minute.
There's a wild card in there in Babic.
Yeah.
He is the wild card.
The Croatian, right? Kieran? Croatian? Yeah. He's a good boxer.
It's manic to watch. Flaming the punches he throws, but
I would love to see a series like that. The only thing is, would the promoters be willing to shelve their percentage, their slice of the pie, to have it?
Well, you've got Top Rank versus Design, haven't you? That's pretty much it. I think Wild is freelance pretty much.
Yeah.
AJ's obviously Design now. Fury's got 2 fights left, I think, with Top Rank. Dylan White's freelance. Babic is the wild card. You can bring Avi's old mate, his sparring partner Ortiz, into it as well, but he's 58 years old.
No, he's a dangerous fighter.
You've got Daniel Dubois, you've got
Joe Joyce, my friend. Joe
Joyce.
Yeah. You've got, this is what I mean, the heavyweight division hasn't been this strong, I'd say,
since the mid-90s. Yeah, mid-90s or mid-90s.
No, I'd say go back further. I think you're going back into the 70s to see the heavyweight division this deep.
I didn't mind, Kev, that was before my time.
I mean, you'd have to be a boxing historian to go back and look at the fights that Ali and Frazier and Foreman had, not just with each other, but when you throw in the likes of Ken Norton into the mix, and Eddie Shavers, and
was it Henry Cooper
in the late 60s. But I mean, I'm on about during the 1970s. You go and look at Ali's, Frazier's, Foreman's record, and look who they beat, and look who they all fought that are combined. You know, that they all 3 fought against these fighters.
Yeah.
The depth was really there in the division back then. I think that depth is there now, and it doesn't come along. This maybe happens once in a generation. This doesn't happen. This is rare, you know. And as fans, I think if you want to get fans back in love with boxing and away from UFC, then you have to give the fans what they want when it's hot, not 5 years down the line.
Too many political promoters.
But the fighters can make this happen.
Yeah.
The fighters can push this if they want it. I mean, the thing is, we all as fans feel like we were robbed of Pacquiao and get that scumbag's name.
Logan Paul, come on.
The Mayweather Pacquiao fight, we were robbed.
5 years
fans.
too late, yeah.
Yeah, we were robbed as fans. and we were robbed of so many fights through the years.
Well,
You know,
Kev, we were robbed of Eubank and Ben for a while as well. I know they had the second fight, but they could have done that so much quicker.
Joe Calzaghe and Roy Jones.
Roy Jones,
Another
yeah. And B Hop as well. Bernard
Yeah,
Hopkins as well.
the list is endless, but I think this is one thing with pay-per-view and DAZN especially. The fan power that you have now comparing to what, because at the end of the day, fans have a voice now and access to media through social media and interactions on channels like this to speak about how they really feel. Whereas before we were relying on boxing pundits on BBC 5 Live or TalkSport and the print media that were in the back of the papers as an afterthought. You know, nowadays, if boxing fans really want this, really want something like this to happen, it can happen, but they have to push it. You know, and I really hope it does. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, no, I agree. We're going to come to predictions. It's a hard one to predict. I saw videos earlier on of Wilder, saw some different angles from his sort of arms, punching the bags and doing a bit of sparring. I'm still going to go with Fury. I think Fury gets the job done. I think on points this time round. I don't think there's enough in Wilder, especially with when was the last time they fought?
He's been out of the ring a long time.
2020, wasn't
2020 was the second fight.
it? Or was it 2019?
2020, I think, was the second fight, wasn't it? Wilder's second fight
2019,
with the Fury. Was it 2019 or 2020? Laura will.
The first one was on December the 1st. That may have been 2019. Then the rematch was in February, I think, maybe last year, just before sort of lockdown.
I'm gonna go with Fury on points. Might put a few pennies on it tomorrow.
I think the weigh-in is going to be fascinating.
Yeah.
If Fury comes in heavy.
Oh, he will do that, Kev. They've already admitted that, no?
Yeah, but there's heavy and there's heavy. Because it depends on how heavy he comes in. If he only comes in saying he's 8 pounds heavier than what he was last time, that means he's trained properly. And I think he stops him in 5 rounds.
I think they're saying 12 to 15 pounds heavier.
If he comes in bloated or any more than, if he comes in over what his normal weight is, then anything's possible.
It's weird because the second fight, Fury came in 18 pounds heavier than the first fight, 19.7. And Wilder was his heaviest. He'd put on 17.5 pounds. Obvious intention that they were going for the knockouts. But for me, Fury wins by KO, but he will hit the floor.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And he'll come
Fury
back.
will
He'll come back up like the Undertaker as well, like he did in the first fight. Incredible. To this day, right? And I've watched boxing throughout the years, like last 25, 30 years. I've never seen a knockout like that, and the person's got up like that.
No,
never seen it.
I've never seen someone's head spin like that.
And it's as if he waited for the 7-8 count, and then he got up. It's the thing. He got knocked out, but he knew where he was, and he's just breathing, catching his breath, and he gets up.
A different referee on another night
calls that off.
Waves that off. A different referee waves that off. He was a lucky boy that night.
Very lucky.
And the thing is, I think they called it a draw. I think he won that hand.
Oh,
yeah.
He won that.
He won that hand. He won that handsome.
He got that.
Got up like the Undertaker. Yeah.
Kev, your prediction?
I think Fury knockout 5th round. I think Wilder. I don't think Wilder's ever had a hard fight. I think that Fury is head and shoulders a better boxer, and he's stronger. And as long as his mentality is right and his frame of mind is focused, and he doesn't go into the ring angry, but determined, I think he ends it whenever he wants. He's that damn good.
Last thoughts, Kieran?
Yeah, I pretty much said it. I think Fury wins by knockout, but he will hit the canvas. Sort of Wilder, technically, some people said he cues up these shots. He's just got that equalizer, hasn't he?
He's got the power, yeah. He's got the power.
Yeah, he's got the power.
You can have all the skill you want, but if you've got one punch KO, he's the only one in the heavyweight division with true one punch KO power.
No, I agree. Definitely agree.
It'll
Guys,
be a great watch.
That's been a great show, and tomorrow I'm sure the comments will be popping off in our WhatsApp chat pre-hand.
Don't forget to check out the F1 on Sunday. Hamilton's after taking a 10th place penalty grid.
They swapped the
he swapped the engine out. He's already fastest in free practice 1 today. He'll start if he gets pole tomorrow. He starts on 10th,
and he's 3 points ahead, isn't he?
Yeah. The championship is alive for the first time in a long time. You've got a legitimate championship race in F1 this year. Turkey is a great circuit. It's a fast circuit. It's one for overtaking. It'll be a good watch.
Brilliant. Nice one. Kieran, anything from you?
Yeah, don't forget Sunday, 6 p.m. UK, NFL Red Zone.
Brilliant. Got it. Yeah, I need to start.
7 hours.
You need to start picking up it again.
The 49ers have lost their last 2, so...
Patriots lost
I need to find a team. I might just start supporting the Buccaneers, but they're owned by Glazers, so it's terrible. But
look, you're a craft boy, mate.
I know. I support whoever's the flavor of the month. I might start supporting New York Giants because Kieran's got a top one, so I might just support.
Try the Jets.
They're in London on Sunday.
Are they playing at White Hart Lane? Are they?
Falcons Jets on Sunday.
Nice.
Cool.
Nice.
That'd be on BBC as well, I'd imagine.
Yeah, they probably would, wouldn't it? Yeah. Before we end it, Sienna, road to recovery. We just need to get it over the line now. I know they've scheduled her trip in November, I think, to St. Louis for treatment, and then the next stage is rehab. So let's donate where we can. That would be great. And then I believe no pre-match, post-match tomorrow, as obviously it's international weekend, but I'm sure Gav's got something planned for Fatback 4 on Sunday. That's all from me, Kev and Kieran, over and out. Thank you.